Welcome to Wiki Bros. I'm Justin,
This is Kyle.
and this is the show with a couple of guys exploring various Wikipedia articles. So let me ask you, Kyle, what would you do if somebody shot your dog?
Oh, I'd be pissed. I mean, I'd definitely call the cops. Because you can't shoot people these days.
Well, what if the person who shot your dog was a member of law enforcement?
Ooh. Plot thickens. Yeah, I'd call my lawyer.
What? I mean, what's your lawyer going to do?
Oh, that's a lawsuit for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, how much money could you really get out of that?
I mean, the McDonald's lady got like $2.7 million for her lawsuit with McDonald's for hot coffee.
Yeah, 2.7 million?
Yeah.
I was thinking it was like a million or something.
No, 2.7. She got, I want to say like 300,000 or 400,000 for her medical costs, and then the rest of it was punitive damages, which they obviously capped that for the state. But yeah, she got
Cleaned house.
third degree burns on her pelvic and vagina area and her legs as well. I mean, she was 79, so it's probably the most action that area's gotten in a long time. But still, I mean, would you burn your
No.
no
No.
$3 million? $3 million.
How hot's the coffee again?
190 degrees,
How hot's a normal cup of coffee?
maybe 150.
I don't
3
know.
million. Like you're done. You're done working. Like
I mean,
you can retire tomorrow.
how long is it going to take for me to heal, though?
I mean, it's 3rd-degree burn, so it's like you're probably gonna have some nice
Yeah.
scarring.
Yeah.
But she had clothes on too, so I mean that shows you like how long it burnt her. So it was like an extended period because like it kept burning her after she got it on her
Right.
because she's probably didn't like react quickly to just take the clothes off. Some
let's-
80-year-old lady going through the
She's
drive-thru,
stripped.
she's like, "Oh my god!"
Oh, my God.
That was a little loud.
Wow. She starts stripping in the drive-thru.
Yeah,
All the
yeah.
all the old men in their walkers are out there, and they're collapsing now seeing this.
Getting excited.
Great.
Viagra's kicking in for him.
Yeah. Well,
Shake it, Granny.
if you went down that path and just decided to sue them instead of getting in a gunfight with them, you'd probably be in a little bit better position than the Weavers.
Yeah, that
were.
sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah, you don't really want to get in gunfight with law enforcement.
No, it's terrible.
But today we're talking about Ruby Ridge, which was the site of an 11-day siege in 1992 in Boundary County, Idaho. Began on August 21st when deputies of the U.S. Marshals Service initiated action to apprehend and arrest Randy Weaver under a bench warrant after his failure to appear on firearms charges. Weaver refused to surrender, and members of his immediate family and family friend Kevin Harris resisted as well. The hostage rescue team of the FBI became involved, and the siege developed. While they were out scoping out the property, 6 U.S. Marshals encountered Harris and Weaver's 14-year-old son Sammy in the woods near the family cabin. A shootout took place. Deputy U.S. Marshal William Deegan, Sammy Weaver, and the Weaver's dog Stryker all died as a result.
They shot his 14-year-old son?
Yes.
Wow. I mean, the dog's one thing. Man, you should have started with that. If someone shot your 14-year-old son, that changes everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. They went crazy on this. I mean, completely inappropriate in my opinion, but that's my opinion.
And this was on their property, their
This
personal
is
property.
on the Weaver's property, absolutely. It says, in the subsequent siege at the Weaver's residence led by the FBI, Weaver's wife, Vicky, was killed by FBI sniper fire.
Oh, man.
All casualties occurred in the first 2 days of the operation. The siege and standoff were ultimately resolved by civilian negotiators. Harris surrendered and was arrested on August 30th, while Weaver and his 3 daughters surrendered the next day. Randy Weaver and Kevin Harris were subsequently arraigned on a variety of federal criminal charges, including first-degree murder for the death of Deegan. Harris was acquitted of all charges, and Weaver was acquitted of all charges except for the original bail condition violation for the firearms charges and for having missed his original court date.
So who shot first?
So in this, it was accounts vary, but I'm saying that the U.S. Marshals shot first.
Well, it sounds like it if they shot it.
Yeah,
Oh no, they shot the dog first, right?
they shot the dog,
And then
and then depending on which way you want to go with it, but it sounds like they shot the dog because he was approaching them, and then
but he was approaching with the 14-year-old
right,
and his
but
friend, right?
but the dog came out of the woods first, is what it sounds like. So
I mean, that's tough because if you're walking in the woods and somebody randomly shoots at you,
right, and
I mean you don't know if they're aiming
but
at you.
when we get into the story, you'll see where it's it wasn't like it was just a random Sunday stroll through the woods, right? So
Cops are surrounding them kind of
yeah,
situation.
right. But it says Weaver was fined $10,000 and sentenced to 18 months in prison, credited with time served plus an additional 3 months, and released after 16 months. During the federal criminal trial of Weaver and Harris, Weaver's attorney, Jerry Spence, made accusations of criminal wrongdoing against the agencies involved in the incident. In particular, the FBI, the U.S. Marshals Service, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and the U.S. Attorney's Office for Idaho.
Man, they brought everybody into this.
Absolutely. It's a big deal. At the trial's end, the Department of Justice's Office of Professional Responsibility formed the Ruby Ridge Task Force to investigate Spence's charges. A redacted HTML version of the task force's report, publicly released by Lexis Counsel Connect, raised questions about all of the participating agencies' conduct and policies. The Justice Department later posted a more complete PDF version of the report. Both the Weaver family and Harris brought civil suits against the federal government over the firefight and siege. The Weavers won a combined out-of-court settlement in August of '95 of $3.1 million. And after numerous appeals, Harris was awarded a $380,000 settlement in September of 2000.
So they got it knocked all the way down from almost $4 million down to $300,000.
Well, I think part of that is probably because of the amount of people involved, on Weaver's side.
Okay.
Right. And
so they
with
split it.
Harris, it's just the one person.
Oh, okay.
That's my
okay.
guess. So it says, to answer public questions about Ruby Ridge, the Senate Subcommittee on Terrorism, Technology, and Government Information held hearings between September 6th and October 19th of 1995, and later issued a report calling for reforms in federal law enforcement to prevent a repeat of the losses of life at Ruby Ridge and restore public confidence in federal law enforcement. It was observed that the Ruby Ridge incident and the 1993 Waco siege involved many of the same agencies, like the FBI's HRT and the ATF, and some of the same personnel, like the FBI HRT commanders, same.
So Waco was after this?
Waco happened the year following this. Yep.
Okay.
And says the Government Accountability Office also conducted a review of federal policies about use of deadly force, publishing it in 1995. In 1997, the Boundary County prosecutor indicted FBI HRT sniper Lon Harushi for manslaughter before the statute of limitations for the charges could expire. The case Idaho versus Harushi, I might be saying his name wrong. Sounds right to me, though. It was moved to federal court, which has jurisdiction over federal agents. The case was dismissed because of the Supremacy Clause. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit ruled in 2001 that Harushi could be tried on state charges. A new county prosecutor, Brett Benson, had been elected in 2000 and dismissed the case, though, saying it was unlikely the state would be able to prove the criminal charges. And obviously, Benson's decision, was controversial. Says the events that took place at Ruby Ridge and law enforcement response during the Waco siege roughly 6 months later. There you go, 6 months later. They've been cited by commentators as catalysts for the Oklahoma City bombing by Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. So that's your little overview of what we got going on here. It's a pretty messed up situation.
I'm curious to hear the details of how they escalated to this level over a missed court date. There's going to be a lot that went down to get to that point.
Yeah, there's a little bit involved here.
But let's point this out though, okay? Stop missing your court dates.
What's that?
So I don't understand people missing court dates. Like, you're going to have a warrant issued for you regardless.
Right. So it's a little controversial here, but I believe what the situation with him missing the court date wasn't an intentional thing. He was given the wrong date.
Oh.
Yeah.
So he really was at no fault for the missed court date.
Yeah, it's just a fucked up scenario. Like, I don't think he should have been.
His lawyer dropped the ball here or something?
Somebody on his team, whether it was a lawyer, ultimately the lawyer should have been on top of it.
Oh,
right?
yeah, for sure.
But it says here we're starting out with Randy Weaver. He's a former Iowa factory worker, U.S. Army Green Beret. They moved with, Randy, his wife, Vicky, their 4 kids, all went to northern Idaho during the 1980s so that they could homeschool his children and escape what he and wife Vicky saw as a corrupted world.
So he's basically end of the world, or
possibly. Yeah, it seems like he's going down that path.
yeah.
It says in 1978, Vicky, the religious leader of the family, began to have recurrent dreams of living on a mountaintop and believed that the apocalypse was imminent.
Yeah, called that one.
After the birth of their son, Samuel, the Weavers began selling their belongings and visited the Amish to learn how to live without electricity. They bought 20 acres.
Did they teach them how to make those magical fireplaces?
I'm unfamiliar with your magical
You don't
fireplaces.
know they have these fireplaces that they make they create heat. I will have to send you a link on it. If anyone's listening, Google this. It's kind of amazing, but it doesn't generate any. There's no electricity, no gas. It's amazing.
So they are one with the sun.
It's Amish magic. That's what it is. Okay. It might be like Jesus's fireplace. I don't know.
I don't think that's probably accurate at all.
Why?
I don't see how an Amish.
Well, for one, I don't think Jesus needed a fireplace when it was like
He's got the sun.
200 degrees where they were at.
He's got the sun.
Well, he is the sun.
He is the sun.
Oh, religious joke. Okay, moving on.
All right, they bought 20 acres of land on Ruby Ridge in 1983 and began building a cabin. In 1984, Randy Weaver and his neighbor, Terry Kennison, had a dispute over a $3,000 land deal. Kennison lost the ensuing lawsuit and was ordered to pay Weaver an additional $2,100 in court costs and damages. So, because of this, Kennison wrote letters to the FBI, the Secret Service, and county sheriff in which he alleged that Weaver had threatened to kill Pope John Paul II, President Ronald Reagan, and Idaho Governor John Evans. In January of 1985, the FBI and the Secret Service launched an investigation into allegations that Weaver had made threats against Reagan and other government law enforcement officials. On February 12th, Weaver and his wife were interviewed by 2 FBI agents, 2 Secret Service agents, and the Boundary County Sheriff and his chief investigator. Secret Service had been told that Weaver was a member of the Aryan Nations and that he had a large weapons cache at his residence. Weaver denied these allegations and the government filed no charges. On 3 or 4 occasions, the Weaver had attended Aryan Nations meetings at Hayden Lake, where there was a compound for government resistors and white supremacists.
So he's going to KKK meetings.
Yeah, and I think I don't feel like, just from what I've seen on this guy, I don't feel like he is. I don't know. It's hard. I don't feel like he's a racist.
Dude, there is absolutely no way on earth that I would be caught dead at a KKK rally. Like, you would know what you're going to.
No, and I get it, but I think he got invited there by a friend, okay? And it wasn't like he was invited there as going to a KKK rally
As
or anything
opposed-
like that, right?
As opposed to what?
It was good. They're like into the world, government resistors type of people, and I think that's where he was going. Obviously, it sounds like it was potentially both, right? But
I just happened to be
yeah,
KKK
but
there.
I feel like that's what it is. Now, on the flip side, again, even if I'm going down that path myself and I don't want anything to do with the government, and I think there's going to be this big apocalypse, because government's out of control and everything like that, I'm still not going to an Aryan Nations thing.
No,
right?
it sounds like
But-
if you want to stay off the government radar, that sounds like the worst possible thing you could do.
Yeah, it's messed up. But from what I've seen on him, I have a hard time believing that he is really somebody involved in, the KKK or the Aryan Nation type.
Well,
thing.
how many meetings did he go to?
Well, this was his first one,
Okay.
right?
Now you say that like he went to others.
So I think he went to it said he went to there on 3 or 4 occasions,
Okay.
but this started,
If you go to one,
and
okay.
right, but
like,
here's the thing.
I get talked
Here-
into it, but then you come back and you're like, hey,
So
Carl's over there. I'm gonna talk to Carl now.
Here's the thing, though, is that we don't know any details about what actually went on there. So
True.
it's
all speculation.
Yeah, right. So they might not have even, been crazy. What I don't know what. I don't know what
Do
they
you
do
know
at
any
KKK.
non-crazy KKK people?
I don't know what they do
I
at
just-
KKK meetings, but
it's reaching.
but I'm just saying that it might not have. It might have just been all focused on end of times or government being out of control type of.
Well, yeah, possibly. Either
So-
way, it's a really bad look.
Yeah, it is. But it says the investigation noted that Weaver that Weaver associated with Frank Cumnick, who was a known associate with members of the Aryan Nations. Okay, so this guy is the one who convinced him to go. Said Weaver told investigators that neither he nor Cumnick were members of the Aryan Nations, but he stated that Cumnick was associated with the Covenant, the Sword, and the Arm of the Lord. Whatever that is, I'm not sure. Says on February 28th, Randy and...
Him and the Hale Bob guy would have got along really
Yes,
well.
probably. Yep. Says February 28th, Randy and Vicky Weaver filed an affidavit with the county courthouse alleging that their personal enemies were plotting to provoke the FBI into attacking and killing the Weaver family. On May 6th, the Weavers sent President Reagan a letter claiming that their enemies may have sent Reagan a threatening letter under a forged signature. No evidence of the letter ever surfaced, but in 1992, the prosecutor cited that the 1985 letter cited it, as an overt act of the Weaver family's conspiracy against federal government, although they don't have any record of this letter ever existing.
So it's imaginary.
Yeah.
Now, did someone just tell them that they sent the letter?
Yeah, that guy that he got in that little lawsuit with.
Oh. Now, this,
So-
was this his neighbor?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Kinnison is his name?
Yeah, okay.
Right. So I think they were trying to be a little proactive and be like, yo, Reagan, man, we didn't do it. We're not plotting to kill you. But they used him saying that as like evidence that he actually did send a letter that he didn't send, and they don't have any record of.
Well, he's definitely setting himself up for failure.
But
You've got...
the government is overreaching too here.
True.
So then it says the ATF, they first became aware of Weaver in July of '86 when he was introduced to a confidential ATF informant at a meeting at the World Aryan Congress, which I assume is what happened at this Hayden Lake place, right?
Okay.
Says the informant portrayed himself as a weapons dealer working with motorcycle gangs. Weaver had been invited to the meeting by Cumnick, the original target of the ATF investigation. It was Weaver's first time at this Congress. Over the next 3 years, Weaver and the informant met several times. And in July of 1989, Weaver invited the informant to his home to discuss forming a group to fight the Zionist organized government. referring obviously to the U.S. government.
Yeah.
So, you know, he met a friend, and he has a friend come to his house. Just his friend happens to be an informant for the government, but
Who he's trying to make a secret group to fight the government. That's
Right.
probably not.
Yep.
I didn't help him out any. But he sounds like he was kind of set up.
yeah, it says in October of '89, the ATF claimed that Weaver sold the informant 2 sawed-off shotguns with the overall length of the gun shorter than the limit set by federal law.
Really.
Yep.
Yeah, let me guess. He got charged with that.
In November of 1989, Weaver accused the ATF informant of being a spy for the police. Weaver later wrote that he had been warned by Rico V. The informant's handler, Herb Byerly, ordered him to have no further contact with Weaver. Eventually, FBI informant Rico Valentino outed the ATF informant to the Area Nation Security. I'm kind of lost on this. So,
Okay. So,
sounds like you've got an ATF informant
right.
and an FBI informant.
Right. Are they aware that they're both working the same case?
It's a mystery. I can't get my head around.
Well, you see,
this.
I mean, it's
TV.
yeah, TV all the time. You see it all the time, and they're like some undercover cop and some other cop agency busts in there. Oh, I've been undercover for the last 8 months.
Right.
You know, maybe something similar to that. I mean, this
It-
guy's been.
I mean, it
this guy's
could
been
be.
buddying around with him, buying guns off him for months. So,
Yeah, it's weird.
and then the other guy tipped off the KKK.
Yes. So
Their security.
it says FBI informant Rico V outed the ATF informant to the Area Nation Security.
His last name's V.
Well, it's
Valentino.
Valentino, and that's who he was saying earlier was
Oh, okay.
Rico V.
Okay.
So in June of 1990, Byerly attempted to use the sawed-off shotgun charge as leverage to get Weaver to act as an informant for his investigation into the Aryan Nation.
Interesting.
Weaver refused to become a snitch.
So they legit just set him up just to
Set
use him as an
up to
informant.
use him as an informant.
Yeah.
Yep. And Weaver refused, right? And the ATF filed the gun charges.
This is legit like some stuff out of Sopranos. Have you ever seen that show?
I didn't watch it.
No,
I tried, but I didn't.
Anyway, it was like a tactic the cops used all the time. They would like pick somebody up on like a small drug charge, and they're like, "Well, we're gonna put you away for like 20 years unless you become an informant."
Right.
That was like
yeah,
the
and I'm
leverage.
sure it probably actually does happen all the time.
Oh, I mean,
It's obviously happening here.
yeah.
The ATF alleged that Weaver was a bank robber with criminal convictions. Of course, those claims were false. At the time, Weaver didn't have any criminal record at all.
How did they even?
Who knows? They're just saying that. It says the 1995 Senate investigation found Weaver was not a suspect in any bank robberies. Right. So the federal grand jury indicted Weaver in December of 1990 for making and possessing, but not for selling, illegal weapons in October of '89. The ATF concluded it would be too dangerous for agents to arrest Weaver at his property. So in January of 1991, ATF agents posed as broken down motorists and arrested Weaver when he and Vicky stopped to assist.
Hey, you guys are sneaky.
Yeah, they're dirty.
You are sneaky.
Yeah, I mean,
He's like actually trying to be a nice guy.
yep, stops by, somebody broke down on the side of the road. Here, let me help you, and then they arrest him like that. Yeah.
Which I mean, they're not wrong. It would have been very.
Oh,
I mean, obviously, it's what ended up happening. They
Yeah.
they tried to arrest him at the residence, and then look at the standoff that occurred.
Right.
Like, why?
well, but I don't think that might have happened like this. You know, there's a lot more events that leads up to that.
Okay.
So just from this alone, if they went up there and tried to arrest him, they probably would have arrested him. He would have went, all right, what? He's going to serve, a few months, maybe, for the weapons charges.
Probably would have got probation.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe
probation.
some house arrest if he had a decent lawyer.
Right. So, I think he would have been just fine had they gone up there. But they're relying on what they know and what they've heard from other people who turn out to probably not be so reliable.
Yeah.
On how much of a whack job Randy Weaver is. Right.
What are they talking like locals as far as like their opinions of him?
Oh yeah.
Oh well, if they talk to the neighbor, I'm sure he'll get really good information.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So when they stopped to assist, then Randy Weaver got arrested. He was told of the charges against him, released on bail, and told that his trial would begin on February 19th, 1991. On January 22nd, the judge in the case appointed Everett Hoffmeister as Weaver's legal representative.
So we got a public defender.
Yep.
Don't ever do that.
Yep. Well, what are you going to do? He probably didn't have a lot of money.
No, probably not.
Right?
They're living on the land, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Does he work at all?
I don't believe so. I think now that they're there, I think he's probably just living off the land, and of course, selling sawed-off shotguns.
Oh yeah, but I mean, because they worked with the Amish to learn how to live off electricity, so they
Right.
literally have no payment. And I don't know how they
already bought the place.
They must have just bought it cash because you don't have a loan payment.
Sure.
So
Yep. So it says the same day, Weaver called probation officer Carl Richens and told him that he had been instructed to contact Richens on that date. Richens did not have the case file at the time, so he asked Weaver to leave his contact information and said he would contact him when he received the paperwork. According to Richens, Weaver did not give him a telephone number. That's kind of important.
well,
But maybe he didn't have a telephone.
probably don't have. He probably called him from a payphone. I mean,
Right.
they don't have electricity, so
Right.
the likelihood of them having a telephone,
Right.
and like they had no cell phones
Yeah,
back then.
definitely didn't have a cell phone then. Hoffmeister sent Weaver letters on January 19th, January 31st, and February 5th asking Weaver to contact him to work on his defense. On February 5th, though, the trial date was changed from the 19th to the 20th to give participants more travel time following a federal holiday. The court clerk sent the parties a letter informing them of the date change, but the notice was not sent directly to Weaver, only to Hoffmeister. And on February 7th, Richens sent Weaver a letter indicating that he had the case file and needed to talk with him. This letter, though, erroneously said Weaver's trial date was March 20th, not February 20th.
Oh,
And on February 8th, Hoffmeister again attempted to contact Weaver by letter informing him that the trial was to begin on February 20th and that Weaver needed to contact him immediately. Hoffmeister also made several calls to individuals who knew Weaver, asking them to have Weaver call him. Hoffmeister told U.S. District Court Judge Harold Lyman Ryan that he had been unable to reach Weaver before the scheduled court date.
well, and that is on Weaver. I mean, if he's getting letters in the mail and you're not contacting your lawyer over a court date, I mean, that is kind of on you.
It is on him,
The
but
change shouldn't have happened without them notifying him directly.
yeah, and
But I will say that does happen.
but
I've had that happen to me myself.
don't they have to? I'm not positive, but don't they have to either deliver this notice to you in person or send it like certified mail or whatever that you have to sign for?
Generally, if it's a court date change, you're supposed to be served by the cops.
Okay.
But
They didn't want to go out there.
possibly.
They didn't.
The other issue with that is that is not a timely thing. They just have to serve you before your court date.
Okay.
But you're talking weeks. But at this point, like he should have received notice. But if he had reached out to his lawyer, he wouldn't have had the issue to begin with.
I'm just saying that the guy probably doesn't go check his mail that often.
Probably not. I
So-
mean, I would assume they have a post office or a mailbox out there.
Yeah, I mean,
You'd have to have it.
possibly. I really don't know. Maybe the postal delivery person is afraid of going there.
I mean, the only thing rationally, maybe if you live in the country, generally you have your own mailbox.
Right. I'm just
Maybe it's a situation where he lives just on the outskirts of town and they have like a
no.
a
He's
P.O.
he's
box.
not.
He's
on
way
the
out.
outskirts.
He's out in the
Yeah.
mountains, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. So no, there's not gonna be a P.O. box.
Right. So but either way, it still should have been some sort of certified notification.
Yes.
That he received it, but they didn't do that apparently. So when Weaver did not appear in court on February 20th, Ryan issued a bench warrant for failure to appear in court. And on February 26th, Ken Keller, a reporter, telephoned the U.S. probation office and asked whether Weaver did not show in court on February 20th because the letter Richens sent him had an incorrect date. Upon finding a copy of the letter, the chief probation officer, Terrence Hummel, contacted Ryan's clerk and informed them of the incorrect date in the letter. Hummel also contacted the U.S. Marshals Service and Weaver's attorney, informing them both of the error. Judge Ryan, however, refused to withdraw the bench warrant because he's such a good guy.
So they gave him another warrant for a failure to. So this is where the failure to appear came from, on a date that he shouldn't have even been in court. Well, he should have, but they sent the wrong dated letter out.
Right. Yep.
Makes plenty of sense.
Mm-hmm. And it says the U.S. Marshals Service agreed to put off executing the warrant until after March 20th, though, in order to see whether Weaver would show up to court that day. So at least they're giving him the benefit of the doubt, right? They didn't withdraw the bench warrant, but they're not executing it until after the date that he thinks it is.
So they're giving him the chance to actually show up.
Right. But if he were to show up on March 20th, the Department of Justice claimed that all indications are that the warrant would have been dropped, but instead, the U.S. Attorney's Office called a grand jury on March 14th. U.S. Attorney's Office did not inform the grand jury of Richens' letter, and the grand jury issued an indictment for failure to appear.
Man.
Yep. So
I don't know what courthouse this is, but everybody needs to stay out of it.
The whole situation, all of these different agencies are really just kind of coming together to fuck this guy over. I mean, whether it's intentional or not, they're doing it. And
I mean, from the get, I mean, granted, the guy, given the KKK thing and the apocalyptic thing, he doesn't sound like the most stable guy. But like, they really seem like they did take advantage of the situation by trying to force him into, working with them. And I mean, it could feel like a setup. Like if you're the person,
absolutely.
I mean, you've got how many different agencies screwing you over?
Absolutely.
It's like, okay, now your public defender didn't inform you of a date change. They didn't do their job. You weren't notified of a court date change. They had a warrant out for you for a failure to appear when you
didn't
even think you were supposed to be there.
Yep.
Okay, but so he was supposed to appear on the 20th, and then they went ahead and ran trial early on the 14th.
Yeah. Well,
Why didn't he get notified of that date?
So I really don't know any more of the details on this. All I know is they're fucking him.
I mean,
I think that judge.
The judge has got it out for him.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. He's probably the worst one. Well, up to this point in time, he's probably the worst one.
Until they start shooting at him.
So when Weaver case passed from the ATF to the U.S. Marshals Service, no one informed the Marshals that the ATF had attempted to solicit Weaver as an informant. That's weird. As law enforcement arm of the federal court, the U.S. Marshals Service were responsible to arrest and bring in Weaver. He's considered a fugitive. Weaver simply stayed in his remote home, threatening to resist any attempt to take him by force. Weaver was known to have an intense distrust of the government, obviously.
I'm sure none of this helped that.
The erroneous Richens letter is believed to have compounded this sentiment and may have contributed to Weaver's reluctance to appear for trial. He was suspicious of what he thought were inconsistent messages from the government and his lawyer, obviously.
So he had received some messages from the lawyer.
At this point now, right? He has, but
it was all too late.
Yeah. And now he's like, hey, why do they keep changing things around like this?
Right.
Right. So said he began to think there was a conspiracy against him. He's already kind of on the edge, right?
Well, like I said, the guy was teetering.
Yeah, absolutely.
The sanity level there with the apocalyptic thing beforehand, which that's his own belief system.
Right.
His wife was into it too, so their whole family was. And then he did seclude himself, which means he's trying to stay away from people to begin with, and they keep sucking him back in.
Yes, absolutely.
Which, in fairness, had he not attended the Aryan meetings, probably wouldn't have gotten pulled into it to begin with.
Good point. But also, did he know that he was attending an Aryan meeting?
Well, I mean, maybe not the first time, but definitely the fourth.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though, is maybe not.
I mean, I guess it depends on
what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can't. I have never seen a KKK rally that's been quiet. But unless
have
it
you
was like,
seen a lot of KKK rallies?
I mean, on the news, I suppose.
Come on.
I mean, maybe behind closed doors. I
You're-
mean, in fairness, if it wasn't a legit KKK rally, okay, let's just say, for instance,
Okay.
it was just a group of different sections meeting to discuss the government, he probably would have been interested in it.
Yeah.
Or if they were talking about overthrowing the government, I mean, which like I
Right.
said, that's going to put him on a radar no matter what.
Yeah,
But he already had this huge distrust for the government to begin with.
yeah, absolutely. And now he's came to believe he's not going to receive a fair trial.
Oh no, he's getting shafted. That's
Right.
for sure.
If he appears in court, there's no way he's receiving a fair trial. So his distrust grew even further when Hoffmeister erroneously told him that if he lost the trial, he would lose his land,
Oh wow.
essentially leaving Vicky homeless, and that the government would take away his children.
Which they obviously don't have money at this point, because who wouldn't go get their own lawyer?
Right.
Like, I would have fired, if for a public defender, I would have fired the guy on the spot after
But
this.
he's probably getting, now his lawyer is telling him this. Like,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
like if you lose this case, you're losing your land. Basically, you're losing your family.
Well, they already got a huge case built against him. I
Right.
mean, he's fighting an uphill battle at this point.
And this is his life. I mean,
Yeah.
this is his entire life now. That they've sold basically everything to come out here and build this cabin in the woods to be secluded.
Oh, they're going to toss him in jail, and that's because he's going to leave his wife and family.
Yeah,
And then they're going to take the land. He's going to have nothing.
They're going to take the
Homeless.
land. They're going to take his kids for a failure to appear.
Yep.
On a weapons charge, like on selling a shotgun that was, I think it was
2 inches. 2
Yeah.
inches, yeah.
All right, come on. But I mean,
I know a guy who used to just, measure by looking. I got to name his names.
yes, don't name any names.
Just Bush.
So, says U.S. Marshal Service officers made a series of attempts to have Weaver surrender peacefully, but he refused to leave his cabin. Weaver negotiated with U.S. Marshal Ron Evans, Warren Mays, and David Hunt through third parties from March 5th to October 12th of 91, when Assistant U.S. Attorney Ron Howen directed that the negotiations cease.
So he was in negotiations
Yep.
for 6 months?
Yep.
Wow.
Through third parties, though.
Well, yeah.
Right, because nobody wants to go out there.
No, they're trying to
Because-
be gentle
right.
about this.
So that it happened from March to October, and then the U.S. attorney, he's like the assistant U.S. attorney, right? He's like, nope, we're done.
So
Which
almost for a fact, this guy probably did not leave the farm or his land
Yeah.
during this period at all.
Probably not.
Because he's so worried about getting picked up by the
Right.
cops at this point.
Yep. And said the U.S. attorney directed that all negotiations go through Hoffmeister, but Weaver refused to talk to him because now he doesn't trust him either, right?
Who would?
Said marshals began preparing plans to capture Weaver to stand trial on the weapons charges and his failure to appear at the correct trial date. Although marshals stopped the negotiations as ordered, they made other contact. On March 4th of 92, U.S. Marshals Ron Evans and Jack Clough drove to Weaver property and spoke with Weaver, posing as real estate prospects. At
So
a
they're trying to trick him again.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Man.
At
So are they
a-
offering to buy his land?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what they were doing there, but probably that was the case. Or talking to him about neighboring land.
You're right.
And he probably would like that. Get rid of that other piece of shit neighbor of his. At March 27th, 1992 meeting at U.S. Marshal Service headquarters, Art Roderick, codenamed the operation Northern Exposure.
Isn't there a TV show?
Yeah, it was. I don't think it was about this, though.
I don't.
Nope.
Wasn't it like Canada or something?
I don't know.
Or
I thought it was Dakota.
I think maybe it was. It was.
I don't know. It was kind of before my time, really.
I just remember the name of the show,
Yeah,
but I don't
yeah.
remember anything about it.
Was John Candy in that, or am I mistaken?
No.
Wasn't it John Candy?
He
He was in Uncle Buck,
Yeah.
the movie, but
not
for
no.
some reason I was feel like he was in the show Northern Exposure.
I don't think so.
Either way,
The only thing I remember about the show is a moose.
yeah,
Like, that's
exactly.
literally the only thing.
Exactly.
Only thing.
That is exactly what I
Because
remember.
the moose was just walking around town all the time.
Weird. but obviously not this northern exposure.
No.
So surveillance teams were
Maybe they had a moose.
maybe they were surveillance teams were dispatched and cameras set up to record activity at Weaver's residence. Marshals observed that Weaver and his family responded to vehicles and other visitors by taking up armed positions around the cabin until the visitors were recognized.
At this point, 6 months of being.
Oh, yeah.
And they've probably been stalked this whole time. They've probably been, watching the farm. They may not have been surrounding it, but I guarantee you there are probably vehicles sitting outside, watching.
They're
watching the
definitely
farm.
they're definitely building up out there.
Yeah.
So beginning in February of 1991, the U.S. Marshals developed a threat source profile on Weaver. Agents' failure, though, to integrate new information into that profile was criticized in the 1995 report by a subcommittee of the Senate Judiciary Committee. The subcommittee is concerned that as marshals investigating the Weaver case learned facts that contradicted information they previously had been provided, they did not adequately integrate their updated knowledge into the overall assessment of who Randy Weaver was or what threat he might pose. If the marshals made any attempt to assess the credibility of the various people who gave them information about Weaver, they never recorded their assessments. Thus, rather than maintaining the threat source profile as a living document, the marshals added new reports to an ever-expanding file, and the overall assessment never really changed. These problems rendered it difficult for other law enforcement officials to assess the Weaver case accurately without the benefit of first-hand briefings from persons who had continuing involvement with him. Many of the people the U.S. Marshals used as third-party go-betweens on the Weaver case, Bill and Judy Grider, Alan Jeppesen, and Richard Butler, were assessed by the U.S. Marshals as more radical than the Weavers. When Deputy U.S. Marshal Dave Hunt asked Grider, "Why shouldn't I just go up there and talk to him?" Grider replied, "Let me put it to you this way. If I was sitting on my property and somebody with a gun comes to do me harm, then I'll probably shoot him." Which, I don't know if that really makes him radical. If you're sitting on your property and somebody with a gun comes there to, do you harm.
I'm not going to be friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, come on up, have a seat. Shit.
Is that the shotgun regulation?
But either way, they're whichever way they are assessing these people, they're saying that these people are more radical than Weaver, and they're using them as credible witnesses. Says
they probably got them as informants. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Says the subcommittee said that the profile included a brief psychological profile completed by a person who had conducted no first-hand interviews and was so unfamiliar with the case that he referred to Weaver as Mr. Randall throughout.
Wow.
Yeah, the guy doesn't even know his fucking name, man. He has no idea the guy's last name is even Weaver. He thinks his last name's Randall.
There were so many errors, whether intentional or accidental, during this entire process. It's frightening.
Yeah, it's fucked up, man. So a later memo circulated within the Justice Department that showed the assumptions of federal and some state and local law enforcement personnel about Weaver, that he was a Green Beret, that he would shoot on sight anyone who attempted to arrest him, and that he collected certain types of arms, that he had booby-trapped and tunneled his property, exaggerated the threat he posed. You fucking think? I mean, crying out loud. They've just made this guy out to be like a complete lunatic, and all he wanted was really to be left alone, Now he mistrusts everyone, and they're just barreling down on him, So, I don't know. I think it's a pretty fucked up situation anyway. So now we get into this little helicopter incident, okay?
Man, about the helicopters.
The Geraldo, the Rivera.
Rivera?
Yeah. Rivera, it used to be, he had a TV show, Now It Can Be Told. Okay.
I remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. I just remember Geraldo.
I remember him getting hit in the face with a chair.
George W. Bush almost got hit in the face with a shoe.
I think
You remember that one?
I don't remember that one.
Oh, you don't? Dude, it was awesome.
Who threw the shoe?
I think it was man, gosh, dang it. I want to say it was like a press conference, and I really want to say it was in Iraq.
Oh, okay. I mean, that would make sense.
And
Area.
so it was just some, Iraqi. I don't know if he was a reporter or what,
Just
but
after 9/11.
he takes his shoe off and he wings it at him, and Bush ducks.
Good head movement.
Dude, you should look it up. And I can't believe you don't remember that. That was
I don't know
awesome.
why I don't remember that.
So anyway, it says following a flyover by a hired helicopter for Geraldo Rivera's Now It Can Be Told television show on April 18th of 92, the U.S.
We should look up the see if we can find that to post to the website. Rivera's. I'm sure that it's posted somewhere.
What do you mean? The
Geraldo's. I'm sure he.
The video of it?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm sure he's got video of
probably.
it somewhere.
It said the U.S. Marshals received media reports that Weaver had shot at the helicopter. That day in Idaho, U.S. Marshals were installing surveillance cameras overlooking the Weaver property. The field report for April 18th of 92, filed by Marshal W. Warren Mays, reported seeing a helicopter near the Weaver property, but not that any shots were heard.
So Geraldo just made it up.
So, well, I don't think it was him. May have been him, but it was on his show, or it was his helicopter for his show that was flying. I think it was like random other media
claimed that
somebody was shooting at it, whatever. But it says the U.S. Marshals were there setting up surveillance cameras that day. They saw the helicopter, they heard the helicopter, they never heard any shots. All right, and in an interview with a newspaper, Weaver denied that anyone had fired at the helicopter. And when interviewed by the FBI, the helicopter pilot, Richard Weiss, said that Weaver had not fired at the helicopter. Okay?
So someone's just trying to stir the pot some more.
Yeah. Media reports that Weaver had fired on the Rivera helicopter became part of the justification later cited by U.S. Marshal Wayne Duke Smith and FBI HRT Commander Richard Rogers in drawing up the Ruby Ridge Rules of Engagement on August 21st to 22nd of 92.
So they used a fake event as an excuse for how to engage. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Also, in spite of Weiss's repeated denials that shots had been fired at his helicopter, Howen charged that as overt Act 32 of the Weaver's conspiracy against the federal government. Randy, Vicky, and Harris fired 2 shots at the Rivera helicopter. So that's how that all started.
Sketchy.
Yep. But that's all the time we're going to have for this episode. Remember, you can visit our website at wikibros.com to get more information regarding this topic. Also, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and our YouTube channel. Follow us on your favorite social media outlets like TikTok and Instagram. Leave us a rating and tell a friend. Remember, Wikipedia runs on donations, so would you consider giving them a couple of bucks? Join us next time where we finish up on Ruby Ridge, beginning with shots actually being fired. For Wikibros, I'm Justin.
This is Kyle.
And we'll see you soon.